Hi. Hi. Thank you. So the title of my talk is Where Do the Phishers Live? Or alternatively, Collecting Phishers' Geographic Locations from Automated Honeypots. So if you are primed and ready, we will jump right in. So first off, a little bit about myself. I'm an application security engineer with Atlassian down in Austin, Texas. It's my first ShmooCon. Thank you. And if you're looking for me, you can find me on Bitbucket, hence working at Atlassian, or Twitter. So this project first started with a trend that I was noticing on both my personal and corporate domains, and it was quite a bit of spam building up. You could see that in DMARC reports as well as mail being forged from my domains. And even in light of better defensive frameworks like sender policy or DKIM or DMARC, it was still building up. So from here I started developing some curiosities. Some fraction of the spam was eliciting direct responses. As you may have seen, the trademark example would be the Nigerian prince who wants to transfer his money over to you in the US. So I developed this curiosity about the identity of these people. And what makes this problem tricky is that you can look at things like mail headers from these messages that come in, but that doesn't decouple the identity of the person. The identity of the person from their operation, so from their malicious mail servers sending out spam. So my interest was really looking at the identity of these people, but in aggregate. So there are precedents where people send personalized responses and get replies back, but it's hard to gather that data in any sizable sample. So I went about looking at some good examples of manual correspondence between phishers, and on the left here is a recent TED Talk. It was a comedian who decided to respond to a phishing message. The upper right here we have a common ID supplied by people who are corresponding. Does anyone know who that is behind the mustache in that passport card? Nicolas Cage, you've got it. And this has kind of leaked its way into pop culture. So you can see in the bottom right, there was actually a book written about correspondence between people and scammers. So this is all well and good, but I wanted to go one level deeper. And I found what I think is the most vibrant and eclectic community that deals with things like this. And those were the 419 eaters. So if you haven't heard of this group, they have gamified the act of corresponding with spammers into a sport. And I'm not kidding to you. What a time to be alive. This is a sport called scam baiting. And this isn't just something that you do. This is something that's been gamified and something that you can win. And the way that you win is by corresponding with these people and convincing them to identify themselves by sending a picture of them balancing things on their heads. And of course, this is not a hard and fast rule. You can see the man second from the right. They convinced him to dress up as some kind of colonial era judge or something. But fear not, if you're unfamiliar with this, the community will actually support your entrance into the sport. They have a mentorship program, so check out the website. If you don't want to deal with that, they have an FAQ, and they deal with common questions like, what if they want to talk to you on the phone? And the accepted community answer is you tell them that you suffered an illness and your hearing is damaged. So this kind of gave me some groundwork, some things to cover if I wanted to make this into an automated system. So I really tried to distill it down to a few key points, a few key behaviors to automate. And any successful instance of this, people provide coherent responses where their disbelief is suspended. It's a first-person narrative always, and the appeal to the motivations of the sender. And I'm sure all of you have seen your fair share of this spam. These senders will talk about religious motivations, monetary motivations, familial strife. Really anything that you see in a soap opera is fair game for people to initiate these conversations. So from these behaviors, my kind of mission statement for this project became clear. We're looking to appeal to the laziness case. We're looking to automate the success of these manual correspondence in some form of system that gives some semblance of the quality that we see in human responses. And from this mission statement, Honeyfish was born. So I did get the logo. I didn't splurge too much. This is from Fiverr. I paid $5. And the prompt I gave the graphic designer was honeypot, fish, and technology. And this came out within 24 hours. So thank you, Fiverr, for legitimizing this. It was, well, $5.50 after Fiverr took their cut, for the record. So primary use case here, what we're going to do is set up a Gmail account, and it will receive messages, or you can forward them in, so you need to procure some spam. And the mail is pushed into Honeyfish, which will craft a unique response and an accompanying link. And we took some motivation from the marketing industry here. As many of you know, a lot of marketing emails will contain a 1x1 pixel image, a unique image, such that when you open the mail, the marketer will be able to tell when you read it. The reason that we use a link instead of an image is because we perform some browser fingerprinting when we get a click-through from one of our Phishers. So if you are a visual learner, let's go over the use case once more. We have a Gmail inbox pushing into Honeyfish, and we have an excited team of people forwarding in mail. But if you don't have any friends, you can set up the mail to just come straight into the inbox, and that's fine too. So from there, Honeyfish works its magic and crafts up a response to our Phishers. The honeypot messages are sent out, and some fraction of those people, in this case, the guy with the mustache, will click through, and Honeyfish will record the response, thus completing one honeyfish. So the actual technology stack itself, we use the Google Apps PubSub API to push into Honeyfish, and Honeyfish itself is a Docker Compose system with 4 main containers. We have an Nginx server, which accepts the mail pushes and pushes off to a Flask application. And then Flask will craft up the unique response and send it to a postfix server. And we use that postfix server to spoof the from in the outgoing mail to whoever it was that forwarded that mail in the first place. And that's recorded in Redis. And as soon as someone clicks through, that's also pushed into Redis based on a UUID. So we're still missing something. So I told you that we need something that forms coherent, first-person human responses. And really the answer to this is this man. Does anyone know who this is? No, so I'm glad you're at the... I told Alec his response doesn't count. None other than Andrei Markov, Mr. Markov, born June 14th, 1856 in the Russian Empire, an esteemed mathematician of the University of St. Petersburg, known primarily for Markov chains, among a couple of other contributions. He changed his facial hair a few times over his lifetime. I tried to capture that here on this slide. I also tiled the images into a chain. I was hoping that people would notice, hence Markov chain. So I'll go over what this is really quick. A Markov chain is a sequence of directed graphs, which may sound boring to you, but it's actually pretty exciting. So if you supply some text, which we're going to call an input corpus, it's going to choose a starting point in that text and then form directed edges, which carry a weight. And that weight is the probability that we should transition from that starting point to any other word linked from that starting point. So it's somewhat randomized. It's based only on the current state, but it also generates pretty coherent and unique responses because of that weighted edge with a probability. So if you don't believe me, here are some examples of Markov chains in pop culture. So on the left we have Garkov. Someone took every word that John Arbuckle has said and compiled it into a text input corpus, and it will generate Garfield comic strips. So on the left is a Markov chain at work. Similarly, someone scraped wine reviews from winespectator.com as a text input corpus, and they use a Markov chain to write wine reviews. And I think you'll agree with me, this one looks pretty good, like a person might write. And of course, this doesn't apply only to text, it also applies to things like jazz. And I found a couple of master's thesi. People will generate jazz improvisations with Markov chains, interestingly. So this is really the route that we're taking here. So the next step would be to find our own input corpus that checks all of the boxes for us, coherent responses, first person, suspended disbelief. And I failed a bunch at first. If you take nothing else away, the word corpora is the plural of corpus. So we tried the script of The Big Lebowski. That did not work. It was not in first person, and it didn't appeal to the motivations of of the Fisher. It just talks about Germans and driving and the dude. We tried Project Gutenberg books because those come readily available in text format, but the problem here is that most of them are from the late 1800s. So when I tried it, it was speaking Old English to me. So that didn't work either. And then finally, there was a website called the Text File Directory back from the BBS days. Nothing really funny happened there, but I had to fill this bottom part of the slide. So it was then that I stumbled upon something profound, the holy grail of input corpora for this project, and that is the personal finance subreddit. So I want you to think for a moment. This is really perfect. It's first person. These people have problems and successes. Pretty much anything you see in a soap opera. I'm inheriting money. My parents are kicking me out of the house. Where will I live? I received $3,000. It's really perfect. It checks all of our boxes: strife, financial burdens, successes, appeals to the motivation of the sender. So this is really great. And with that, we went on to crafting our proof of concept. So we chose DigitalOcean, a $5 a month droplet, and bought a domain, bopkeys.xyz. There was a $1 sale on Namecheap for XYZ domains. Bopkeys is a Yiddish term that means nothing or nada. So I figure when these Phishers read that domain name, they'll be like, oh, this can't be dangerous. It's nothing. We registered an email address, AndreM56, in homage to Mr. Markov himself. And then we created a Google OAuth application and installed it to the address and got push set up. So next it was time to fill up our inbox. And I'm a millennial, so the first thing I did was Google for sign up for spam and try all the first page results. There were a lot of nice looking websites, things created with Twitter Bootstrap, so I thought they would be good. Things like Mailbait and Revenge Spam or Spam Sign Up, and I tried all of them. And after signing up, I gave it a 72-hour incubation period. And nothing really that great happened. It signed up for some innocuous newsletters. And some of the spam that I got wasn't soliciting responses, so I wasn't sure if it was a person or maybe another Markov chain on the other end. So where did I go from here? I went back to my friends at the 419 Eater community. I found a guide published in 2002 that talks about this query up here, guestbook Goiman Mugu. I don't know what that means, and if you do know, please come and find me because I'm genuinely curious. But people had these guestbooks set up where you can sign them with a nice message and your email address. And then a lot of these Phishers have scrapers that will come through. So this being from 2002, I thought it definitely won't work anymore. But after signing up for 4 or 5 and giving a 48-hour incubation period, we started having some high-quality spam roll through. So the 419 eaters are as generous as they are eclectic, and they have the surplus 419 scam letters for them, where you can go and pick up people's excess spam. They also have unauthenticated group email boxes. It's kind of like a cafeteria. You just log in and forward out whatever spam you like. Oh, a victim. That's odd that you sign victim guest books. Thank you. So let's do some demonstrations. Since everything is Dockerized, it's pretty easy to set up. So if you wanted to use this yourself, what you would do is you would come into Docker and run a quick docker compose up/d. And that would spin up your containers. And from there, you can do a quick docker ps. And you'll see that everything is up and running. So next up, after deploying it, it's time to install it to your email inbox. So we have the AndreM56 email address. So we'll log in here and it will give us a prompt for installing. And after that, we're good to go. So from there, we're going to take a look at what it's like when you are the Fisher. This is Gorilla Mail. I'm sure you've used it as temporary email addresses. So if I'm a Fisher and I'm mailing AndreM with a quick message, we'll just go through that here. So there was a CAPTCHA. I had to hesitate. Does that bottom center one look like a cactus to you guys? I couldn't tell. but I did pass, so that worked. And you'll see over on the right side here, it's going to refresh, and we'll have a piece of mail from Andrei Markov. So if we click on that, you can see our unique UUID link. And here the Markov chain is talking about some familial woes and things. And I always sign it with kind regards. So if we click, we have browser fingerprinting taking place. We post a giant JSON object back to our Honeyfish deployment, and it forwards us to Google. So moving on here, our fingerprinting is a library called Client.js by Jack Spiro, and here's some of the items that it gathers. So fingerprint is a calculated integer value based on some of the other values that you see here. So this is some of the information that we're collecting just right off the bat. If you want to see what that looks like, that's here on this slide. Some of the interesting items I highlighted, so you can see the fingerprint, IP address, user agent, browser inversion, OS inversion, screen resolution, browser plugins, time zone, and language. So I really sold you guys on the idea of the personal finance subreddit being a great input corpus. So let me show you a couple of examples here. So this is Honeyfish talking about dialing hotel rooms, getting her act together, and recovery is hard for anybody, I agree. So the really appealing thing here for Phishers would be talking about the estate that won't settle for 8 months, so perhaps the Phishers' ears would perk up with this. And for another example, we have Honeyfish talking about 30 plus people and looking for some $400, some sort of troubles with the bank. You can kind of feel your brain working to make some sense of this when you read it. Don't do it too much. It's like staring into the sun. So let's talk about some results. It's only been up for a short time. 41 emails sent and 2 click-throughs. So I'm not sure if that's a good click-through rate, but time will tell. One from Brazil, one from Romania. The Romanian business was talking about small business loans. So if you have poor credit, I can get you in touch with these people. And it turns out they actually seem to have an office building because I looked up their name in Google Maps and this came up. So the oil company holding. So the one from Brazil, it was talking about affiliate marketing, and that was a small portion of the letter that you see there. So one of those low-quality sites signed me up for newsletters from the Democratic National Committee, and they emailed me so much, and Honeyfish replied so much, that the Democratic National Committee banned me. They rate limited my email responses, but I feel like that's not my fault because they emailed me so much that rate limiting was imposed on me. So if anyone can help undo that, again, please come and find me. So I had one more honorable mention. I didn't know where to put it, but I got it this morning before hopping on the plane, and it just made me so happy. This person sells spells, and they can cure cancer or AIDS. But the interesting thing is, this person isn't the one who performs the spells. He listed like a phone book directory of each spell that you can purchase, and it's a different person for each one. So on the right here, you can see some of the things that this person can do for you. Number 5 is pretty notable, as is number 6, I suppose. Really, all of them are amazing. So let's talk about some next steps. So I'd like to weigh the value of responding via my Gmail collection account versus spoofing those addresses from postfix. If I were to respond from Gmail, I would get the benefit of things like being in compliance with DKIM and passing DMARC checks. However, the 419 eaters seem to indicate that Phishers these days are wary of correspondence from Gmail addresses because those people seem to be more informed than others. AOL could be good. Thank you. What I'd like to do is once I get more click-throughs, map these onto the Google Maps API for like a heat map so you can see where everything is coming from. And then a quick and easy dashboard to kind of parse through that JSON. So I think those unique UUID links look a little suspicious. I'd like to plug in a URL shortener API and send that out. And then I'd like to code up Honeyfish so that you can have multiple email boxes feeding into one deployed instance. So all those things will be coming up. If you guys have any ideas, come and talk to me. I'll be around this weekend. So if you'd like to take a look at Honeyfish, it's hosted on Bitbucket, your choice of typing it in or scanning this QR code. And before we go, a couple of special thanks. Alec Amrani for spam curation, and Ryan Holman, Twitter handle Hacknar, for general inspiration and excellence. So thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Hope to see you all around. Are there any questions that I can answer? Yes. So a question is about the Markov chain code. I actually used a third-party library. This is an interesting tidbit. It's pretty good, and it was published by someone who works on the staff of BuzzFeed. So make of that what you will. But it works really great. It works really great. Any other questions? Back there. Interesting. So you almost wouldn't think that people would sign those willingly. So I...
Repeat the question. Yeah, repeat the question into the mic.
Oh, so the question was more of a statement. It was telling me that she was telling me that the term mugu means sucker, I believe. Sucker or chump, something around there. From some sort of language they speak in Nigeria. I'm not sure what that is. Nigerian. I'm learning just as much from you guys as you are from me. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I'd like to meet more of you, so please come and say hi. Thanks, everybody.